top 7 tips for seed growing indoors. First, timing. When you get seeds, a lot of times in the back of the seeds, they have like a when to start inside. So it's recommended 8 to 10 weeks before transplanting. You have to go little by little, seed by seed, checking and investigating on internet when is the best time to sow them. It really matters because what you actually want is to go to your garden with a mature size plant instead of something really struggling because you plant them way too early, or something that is super small and it will not survive. Let me tell you a sad story.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not.
In Minnesota, our average last frost happens in April 29. What? Anyway, you get to know what's your last frost in your area because that will determine the time that you will have to start your seedlings inside. So when you look at a loofah directions, it's actually a direct sowing when the temperature in the ground is over 75 and 90. Well, in Minnesota, that never happens, or that happens sometime in August. So my growing season is very little. So what I do is I start these guys indoor a lot early, like next week. So then the plant is like really confused and it really is like, what I'm doing here? It's cold. So a lot of people is like, oh yeah, we were having this session of sowing. So they get together and they have like sowing nights where they plant everything at the same time, the same night. So think about cilantro, for example. Cilantro is the one thing that once that it's up, is ready to go. If you plant all of your cilantro one time, you will have to eat a lot of cilantro that day. Instead, if you divide your seeds into like week after week after week, then you have a more constant production of the seeds. So think about that. Of course, some varieties like peppers and tomatoes will keep producing during the time, so you just need to plant them the one time. But there are some others that you really want to focus on timing in order to get a very consistent production during the year. Second, containers. Choose the right container for the right size of your plants and the seeds, of course. Onion seeds are extremely small and it doesn't make sense, for example, to put one seed in one of these because this takes forever to grow. So I just do like a nice grouping, like I sprinkle seeds over these, kind of a lot actually, and they will just keep growing and growing in this container. Then I'll just take these, separate them, and plant them one by one in my garden. Instead, in a bigger container like this one, for example, I will just put like a big size, like a gourds or pumpkins or squash, you know, like something that really takes over really quick. They have a lot of space and they can develop like a nice root system, and I can just take them and put them in the ground. Or something in between, you know, like for tomatoes or peppers, something that it's not extremely big because the seeds are quite small. Just make it easy. That's the whole thing. Third, substrate or potting mix. If you're really into gardening, I suggest you to start getting your different substrate by itself because you can make your own blends. Peat moss is very acidic, so it's good for acidic medium plants. It's like in between 3 and 4 the pH. Cocoa fiber instead, it's more neutral, so it's between 5 and 6. Using one or the other will depend on the species that you're planting. Perlite, as we discussed in a previous video, it's like a really good drainage, so it improves the water going down and not collapsing in the middle, so it can rot the seeds. Vermiculite, when you actually look that under like a microscope, they have like a lot of different channels on their structure, so they collect a lot of water and they collect a lot of nutrients. Once that you realize that your seedlings are taking over and growing more and more, that's good time to start feeding, I hate that term, but putting nutrients and minerals to your seedlings. Now, note that I'm not saying like go out there and grab like soil out of your garden and put it in your indoor sowing. Gardening soil has clay, and clay, when it's in contact with water, moves, expand and contract and does weird things. Avoid garden soil. You want potting mix. Fourth is the actual planting or the actual sowing concept, like putting the seed in the ground or the soil. Not every single seed needs to be started indoors. Think about beans. Beans are giant seeds and they actually don't thrive when you start them indoors. They start getting super leggy, trying to find light. And I see these all the time, like in March or whenever like people's just sick of winter, they start putting everything down. It's like, no, save those for your garden. Those are direct sowing, so they have enough skills to be in the actual ground and fight against, you know, like all of the garden soil and grow out there. Instead, spend your energy and your time and your space into those delicate seeds. I'm talking about tomatoes and peppers that need like a longer season before starting them. In general, small seeds, you just need to sprinkle them on top. Think about like digging them twice the size. But again, even that, it's not accurate. So go as they have in the description every single seed. Fifth is the water and the temperature. Once that your seedlings start taking over, you'll realize that they very quickly will dry out, especially if you have them under growing lights. It's a very small seed just trying to make a living. So I always use, you know, like this very fine mist. Be very specific and consistent about the watering method, because plants actually get used to the routine of like, okay, it's 3, it's time for me to get water. And keep an eye on the temperature. A lot of times the growing lights can get really hot and start burning the leaves or drying the soil way too fast. So again, connect and check them daily. 6, light. Plants need light, and what we don't have in winter is enough sunlight. So if you want to start them in by your window, make sure that that's going to be a south facing window and actually like a pretty open space, because other way you will start seeing what you get to see like in March or April, where it's like, look at my seedlings, and they're all like looking forward, or like you have like a foot long radish. I have a good set of grow lights. So I kind of like make sure to provide the right amount of hours. Usually it's like 12 to 16 hours per day in order to stimulate some, you know, faster growing. And the last one, number 7, is move your seedlings outdoors and indoors and outdoors and indoors very slowly. This is probably the most important part. It always fails at this point because you all of a sudden get so excited that it's finally getting beautiful outside. So you are like, okay, my tomatoes are ready to go out, and you put them out and they burn because they're not used to see the sunlight out there. Or, oh my God, it's raining, I can skip a watering cycle. So you bring your whole tray of cute babies, you put them out, storm, everything down the street. So keep an eye of being very detailed with your babies. They need very specific conditions when they're babies, so give them love. Okay friends, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I will definitely keep you posted now that it's more of like the gardening cycle. And yeah, thank you again for your love and support, and more videos are coming, so thank you.